All right. Everyone, put your hands together at home for Alexander Brandon, a composing legend. I guess you wouldn't say composure. You're legendarily composed, right? Always calm.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Let's see how far we can get.
Yeah, we'll see if we can push the buttons. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. Quick rundown of some of your hit list. Obviously, you got Tyrian, the Unreal games, Deus Ex, and I'm excited to get into many more. Some of the Wasteland stuff, Neverwinter Nights too, and whatnot. So we'll touch on as many as we can. But you got a pretty sizable list of cool stuff to go through. And I did my best to not or I did my best to not repeat too many questions that I was able to find.
Yeah, no worries.
So I want to start with something that's kind of familiar. Maybe you've mentioned a couple of times. You grew up enjoying video game soundtracks to the point that you would go to arcades recording them with a recording device. I assume a tape recorder of some kind.
Yep, little handheld, sometimes micro cassette, but usually standard cassette portable
And
recorders.
that's an incredible thing. It must have, I know that you were probably eventually kind of developing awareness, like, oh yeah, he's looking at me, look at him playing the game and whatnot.
Uh,
But I am wondering if like was that your first reaction to replicate and hear those sounds again, or were you ever trying to go to like the guitar or piano to replicate those sounds and be like, oh, it's not working?
oh, that's a really well. Um, it was the newness of the sound.
Okay, yeah.
Pretty plain and simple. And I think, I mean, I can point to some some names that drew me the most, like Legend of Cage, on one hand for more synthy sounding stuff, and Afterburner for sort of sampled or more sampled stuff. I mean, it was synth and I think a few samples here and there. But it was just I just thought, this is for me, it was digestible music for a nerd kid. It wasn't too cool for school if I don't know this band or if I'm not in with a particular crowd because, man, crowds were so much more divided and compartmentalized. Heavy metal people were over here, punk people were over here. I'm not saying never the twain shall meet, but like people were, proud of their cliques, in school and out of school, adults and young alike. And so games just seemed to be my safe space. And so, like, if I'd be in an arcade and I was just really excited by what I heard sound wise, and I recorded it and I listened to it over and over again, that just for whatever reason, that felt like a safe space. And it wasn't that I felt super threatened by other people. I just didn't feel like I was cool enough for that. That's kind of where that was. I didn't try to replicate the sounds on guitar or piano. Piano was my main thing, or the Casio CT30 something or other that my dad got me, and so began my playing journey. I wasn't
Okay.
so focused on the sound set at that point. I really was aware of this. I was like, yeah, this keyboard is nothing like what I'm hearing in the arcade. It's not nearly as cool in my opinion. Now, there's people that have done YouTube videos that I think have proven a little bit otherwise in terms of those chipsets. But yeah.
That is very, very interesting answer. I love that you kind of were thinking of the social aspect of that. The arcade can be a clicky place. I have a clicky arcade, even if it's just like one kid, it can be
Uh-huh.
intimidating to go up to another kid that's like whacking them all or like shooting all the aliens in Area 51 or so, and they're really good at it, and you're just like, whoa.
Well,
Uh,
right. There was the sort of anxiety created if a bigger kid than me would put a quarter, on the
mhm.
monitor to indicate, hey, I got next, or I challenge you. Like
Ooh,
I'd be a little bit older at this point, but like Mortal Kombat or whatever it was, right?
hell yeah.
So there were your own social, sort of things. But yeah, you go to these places just to escape, mostly with yourself. Now there would be multiplayer aspects of it, but for me, my friend Jason, I mean, yeah, sometimes we could meet people and we'd have a shared bond with these games, but I think for the most part it was just like I don't want to really be around people. I've got my I don't want to put a label on it. I don't want to, I mean, I don't want to call things spectrum or ADD or,
Yeah.
whatever. But we had our, whatever it was we had that made us a little less more feeling like we needed an escape with these things, and that's kind of
Oh yeah.
how that worked.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I think again we'll come back to this, but we were talking about when we were just getting to know each other a second ago about the kind of music how or sorry, the kind of people that that kind of music finds and
Hmm.
creates a sort of safe space for. Um it is it's a yeah, not to put any kind of label on it at all, but it is in itself is such a spectrum and represents such a fascinatingly large and diverse amount of people, but they kind of have that internal thing in common, this like
Yeah,
internal drive. Even when it is
absolutely.
social, like if it's dance, it still can be very internally driven in those
Hmm.
moments. So speaking of like kind of the older things and like growing up a little bit more, as you experience those sounds, maybe figure out how to achieve them. Of course, eventually you get your ADLIB Music Card.
Hmm.
Um, I'm curious what getting to know people in that scene was like. Was that something that you found out more about through zines in like a physical manner or posters? Like, how did that scene come about naturally for you?
That was so there was no scene to begin with. It was Jason got himself an ad lib, and I had to have one because
Oh,
I was so fascinated by it. Now the irony is now the the new inspiring technology for Jason is generative AI, and I don't have quite the same, wow, this is a cool new toy approach. Like I am fascinated by it and I want to learn about it. And it's definitely way different now than it was then. So you get your hardware in there, you get your visual composer, and you just write music by yourself. And yeah, there. So since this was '87, this would be before, well, just at the beginning of things like Prodigy and CompuServe and
okay,
internet communication.
right.
Just I'm an old man of the internet. So yeah, it was all just local music writing using the that sound card.
Was there like some kind of maybe like gear community that was forming? Like maybe there ads for particular kinds of like hardware. Is that where some people would maybe find out, like even about the existence of other people's?
Oh yeah, magazines would post ads for these, like gaming
Okay,
magazines, computer magazines, and as I mentioned, the way I found out was Jason having one because I didn't really. I mean, I would flip through Electronic Gaming magazine. I think was the by edited by Bill Kunkel. People confuse it with Electronic Gaming Monthly, and
yeah,
there's the big Kickstarter that I backed, and I'm like, hey, this gives me a similar feel. They were different magazines. Um, and then Computer Shopper and PC Magazine, I think, was another one that I used to read. So those were usually where the ads would be in terms
that's
of
awesome.
yeah, advertising, sound blasters, ad libs, Roland MT32s, the whole thing.
Have you looked through any of those on like the Internet Archives?
A little bit,
It's
yeah.
pretty. It's mind blowing how transportive some of that is. Like
Oh
I was
yeah.
looking through or trying to formulate some of the questions, and I found some ads, even for the first Unreal tournament, that when I like clicked the button and saw the full page spread, I like could smell the magazine paper. Like as like a 7-year old flipping that
Yeah.
thing in a Borders bookstore, I was just like, "Whoa, that is crazy to see again." Uh,
It
Very cool.
yeah, there was that was our social media, our whatever. That was our exposure to things that weren't right in front of us. Was reading and television, and then movies and radio, and so that would be about it. And so when you opened a magazine and you saw the right kind of ad that spoke to you, some of the ones that really that I remember the most that are available through Kickstarter, compilations now is like there was an Atari book, an Atari art book that came out, and I don't remember when exactly, but it had all of the games for the Atari 2600 just, in little boxes on the page. And I think there were maybe 30, 40 tops. But I remember looking at it going like, oh my gosh, there's so many games. I'll never play all these games. And I said that back then in that must have been around 85, 84, something like that. Maybe a little earlier.
There are certainly more games now.
Yeah, there was a long time ago. I'm gonna. drop the dude's name, Tommy Tallarico, said there were 1,000 games released last year. I don't know if you've seen the Roblox Oof
Dude, it could be
video.
more than that. I would not be surprised.
Okay, well, but I mean, 1,000 games was 2003, four, something like
Oh,
that,
okay. So
maybe
you're
five.
this is winning. Okay.
Yeah, this was 20 years ago, and so I remember just being floored hearing that there were 1,000 games released in a year.
Oh man.
And I did a little bit of research, and I think the number last year was closer to 20,000. Um,
Okay. I was like, I feel like that's a conservative number
right, right,
these
exactly.
days
Yeah,
to
I
say
think I
no.
think it's closer to
Okay.
20 now.
Okay.
You can't keep up, and it's not just that that it's all AI slop, even though I'm sure an awful lot of people are just, are trying to play the numbers game and
Sure.
not, sit and get creative with it. But like, there's so many good games that are new. Uh, I've got a grid of stuff that I just sort of blink at and my eyes glaze over, in terms of stuff that I haven't played yet. So,
I have to look at whatever I'm using to buy the game, whatever like Office or man, whatever they call that, like whatever client with all the
Mhm.
games listed you can buy, whatever console or marketplace. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
It takes dozens of repeat watches of the same trailer for me to be like, I am gonna spend $50 today. I'm gonna do it. God damn it. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna go
And
for
that's
it.
good. That's good. You really got to drill down. It's like, where's my interest? Is there a free to play demo on Steam that I can just check
Mhm.
out for 5 minutes? But I don't, half the time I don't even get there. I love word of mouth, and it's not word of mouth necessarily over social media. That can be influential, I guess, if a number of friends just say, okay, you've got to go play this. And like it just stacks up. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should. Somebody that I was having lunch today with, Kristen Queeb, uh, probably pronouncing her name wrong, but like she was at Polyarc, and before that at Bonfire Games. Brilliant sound designer. Really, really technical, really super creative. But she was just like, you got to check out Ghost of Yote, because I hadn't yet. I'd played Tsushima and loved Tsushima. I loved the environment. I loved the audioscape. And there's going to be a visit pretty soon, for some game audio pros in the Seattle area to go visit Sucker Punch.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
going to be a huge treat, and I'm going to be basking in the glory of that team.
I've been watching a lot of Dropout TV and Erika Ishii, who
Oh
plays
my
one of the characters.
gosh, she's great.
Um, yeah,
She was in Stormgate,
obviously,
by the way.
she's sorry, what?
She was a character in Stormgate. We recorded her for Stormgate.
I have a question about Stormgate later because obviously it was just in
Yeah.
the news.
You were talking about Erica.
I was just saying
Yeah.
it's funny we're talking about Sucker Punch, Ghost of Yote, because I've been watching nothing but Dropout to like tune out
Dropout.
my research with for you. I've been like, okay, I'm done for like these
That's
questions.
great. I
I'm
have to, and
gonna.
I think I did a slip up. I should have said they are in Stormgate. I
Oh,
apologize.
sorry.
Yes, my
You're
bad.
correct. I'll see what I can do to get this flipped around.
Oh no, no. If you keep the correction in, like that's
Okay,
an
that's
important
fair
part
too.
of who I am. Just to, I mean, it's not like, hey, everybody, look at how, oh, he corrected himself. No, not like that. But like,
You're
eh,
not being performative.
it's exactly. It's more
Yeah,
real. It's more just
we
like,
are
oh, I
learning.
I forgot. I'm acknowledging I forgot. Sorry about that. Let's get it right. So yeah.
Given that there was no moan scene, given that we're trying to circle back around here,
Right.
um, when you were speaking of though, I mean, maybe this is kind of parallel. The question that I had next in line was like, what kind of growing pains did you experience going from someone who was very capable and passionate at a young age to those first professional gigs where you have things that you need to do, you have rules that you need to follow. It's okay to make mistakes, but what were like some of the hardest things to learn, I guess?
Hmm. Oh man, it's like you thought about these questions. Um. So for the longest time, it was just about having fun. It wasn't it. I've had an interesting journey with, okay, let's with I'm inspired. I'm creative. I'm just going to sit down and it's going to be effortless. That's the way it was with AdLib. I just things just poured out. I didn't have it was hard. I hardly had to think about anything. I mean, I would. I'd just be like, oh, what kind of piece? Okay, this is kind of neat here. Let's just do this here. But I mean, I can say this because I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 12. But like, I'd be all over the place. Kind of like how you see the conversation going. I'd be all over the place in terms of where my brain would be going creatively. Then when I would get into stuff where I'd have to do something with a team. Um, Most of the time that went great with Epic because somebody would say, "Hey, I need this. I need it by this." Like Robert Allen was the first person I worked with professionally. He held my hand, to be fair. Like, I mean, he'd been doing it a while, and Jason and I were these kids that were barely 18,
Right.
getting into the game world. And he was a patient producer. He was a super professional, super kind guy. So I would say that working with Robert is what made the journey into it better because we would make, more than our share of mistakes just by not, having done it before. And then he would say, okay, we got to circle back on this. Oh, maybe we can change the schedule because it was not the way it is now. Now, having said that, there's independent companies that feel just like the Epic days, the OG Epic days, where they're just like, let's just do something cool. Let's be cool to each other. We don't have seven layers of whatever in order to figure things out. We don't have necessarily an intellectual property that we need to funnel things through. We're just making stuff, right? So there's stuff that's that way now, but like back then, um, it felt kind of natural, just creating and creating and creating and creating. And if somebody just gives me a direction, I and says like, let's do a song or let's do this for this particular project, I'd just be like, okay, get it done because I was inspired to do it. Um, and it felt pretty easy to do. So yeah.
Were like good prompts important? I know it sounds weird because that's like parallel to AI language, but like
Ah!
um but were like did more detailed prompts help produce more music or better?
Yeah. I would get I mean it was a level per map for Tyrian, a level per map with like a boss fight for Jazz, um, a level per table for, I mean, Robert did the music, but that was where I did my first sound design was Extreme Pinball. Tim Sweeney brings the General 6000 library of CDs with the book that you have to look through in order to rip the tracks, which, it's very ancient way of doing it now, but he'd just drop it on a table at the Epic office and say like, "Here you go, Alex, do some sounds for Extreme Pinball,"
Wow.
and I would, and there was a list, there was a text list with I don't think it was integration in the text document. It might have been. It was a long time ago. Um, but yeah, it was. I mean, there was very little prompting. It was just sort of like make this sound cool. Sometimes I would ask questions and be like, "Hey, we need this in order to do that." I'd have to work with Robert on the right engine to play back the ADLIB.rol files, and that's when Robert brought in Andreas Molnar, and Andreas just did that for us. Like I didn't have to do any work, but give him the roll files, and he did the work at converting the songs to the LDS loudness format. I think the main thing, the hardest work that I did in terms of something that was just out of my comfort zone creatively was putting all the stuff together in our pitch to Epic and Apogee. And I think Origin. I mean, Origin is like, what? Why would you go to Origin with a shooter like Tyrian? It's because we were
Interesting.
inspired by Origin games like the Ultima series, and I'd end up working with Richard Garriott years and years later. But um, it was getting together the packages to do the pitch. My dad, being a business consultant, helped me put together a professional cover letter. We would put the demo, I can't remember if it was 3.5-inch floppies or a CD, into a FedEx thing with like, hey, please consider our project. Apogee happened to have Star Gunner, but they were kind of interested. Epic was semi interested, but I don't know. But that was when Safari Software started. Between Cliff Bleszinski getting
Oh, right.
excited
Okay.
about it and Robert Allen saying like, "Yep, we can take this on and we can get better art for it." Otherwise, we would have been just rejected twice and been like, "Huh, now what do we do?" Well, I guess we go get a job at a fast food place. So I mean, probably not. I mean, Jason did do that, and he eventually found coding jobs because of how good an engineer he was. So,
I was gonna say sometimes you do find talent there. It's hidden.
yeah,
Um, and I mean everyone's got to work the in-between jobs. I've been working my in-between job for 3 years now. So yeah, hoping
gotcha.
to be done with that one day. Or I have like an interview coming up that's
Oh
scary. It's
man,
weird to consider something new, right?
I'm
You
gonna
just like,
knock on wood for you if it's a
thank
step up.
you. I think it's good. We'll see. My dad did
Okay.
it, and they're like, you should do it. And I'm like, we'll see.
You're
Yeah, but
kind of interested but uncertain at this point.
yeah,
Okay,
and at
gotcha.
this point in my life, it's like, is this gonna be a midlife crisis thing, or is this gonna be a career thing? Let's think about this.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, does it have longevity? Does it look like
yeah.
there's Oh, okay.
I mean, it has longevity. It is a not related to anything that I like, but it is directly benefiting people that I care about or want to
Okay.
care about in the community. It's akin to social work, I would say.
Gotcha.
Uh, and what I do now is closer related to the opposite. So it's like I feels like a lot of karmic debts pay off between like the
Karmic
Fecking
debts. I love
Bahamas.
it.
Like yeah, no, I always go hard for free for Fecking Bahamas because I'm like, dude, I collected debt today.
Where's my
uh,
debt meter?
yeah, dude, it's hard to keep that thing neutral. But you guys obviously made it work through these. It sounds like there weren't actually too many growing pains, and that makes sense because you guys both went on to do some pretty cool stuff. And for you, you went from composing, doing some sound design, doing even a little bit of art, uh, to not too long, you were doing audio direction, right, for Deus Ex Invisible War
Hmm.
after your work on Deus Ex.
Yeah.
Um, I there had to have been more growing pains in the situation where you're going to that.
There absolutely. Yes. Yes, absolutely. It was a team that had done games for the most part. There were some junior people. Jeremy, forget his last name. Oh, it's terrible. Um, but I saw, oh, geez, hold on a second. I'm gonna feel terrible if I don't remember the last name.
There are so many names in the Deus Ex
Yeah,
franchise.
I know I've got Heather Kelly. I just saw Heather Kelly, who was a level designer at the time at Ion Storm, for Thief Deadly Shadows.
Right
I'm
on.
sure she probably did more than that. But we were both at Ion. We didn't work directly together all that much, but we got along. Later on, she looked me up being I think in charge of a program that's related to game design for Carnegie Mellon and saying, "Hey, can you help some of my students with FMod?" And I was like, "I'm happy to, absolutely." That was a lot of fun. But I saw her at GDC. She made it at GDC the first time we'd seen each other in years, and I got to tell her some stuff that because I had seen Sergio Rosas, who was an art director at Ion Storm. Sergio's this really sort of calm, chill, nice guy. And in the middle of our conversation, this was just a catch-up conversation at Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, and he said, Lulu Lemaire, who was a producer on Thief Deadly Shadows, came up, and Sergio said, "I was scared of Lulu," and my eyes went wide, and I was like, "I was scared too." And I told Heather that, and she cracked up. She knows Lulu better. I mean, and I think probably if we had told Lulu that, she'd probably also find it amusing. Don't want to speak for her, but at the same time, we didn't know what the fuck, if you excuse the term, what we were doing at Ion. Like we there were some very intelligent people, but when it came to operating as a team and having social skills and social emotional learning, as I like to call it nowadays, or as a lot of people like to call it, um, we, had our heads up our asses. We were, I would write massively long emails. I would be ingratiating people. I couldn't get to the point. I would, I'd meander around a whole bunch of stuff. Being sitting down at a place with a team, with a schedule that's this vast thing, and you don't know where to put the audio and when, is different than Warren saying, "Oh, we need the soundtrack for Deus Ex. We're ready for it. We let's use the same technology as used in Unreal and just like get inspired by this and go," right? super simple by comparison. So it was a very important learning experience going into Ion Storm for all of us, particularly, well, I mean, not particularly, but also absolutely me, just because of the stuff that uh, not only did I not wasn't aware of, but people that didn't know how to say, hey, just as an FYI, let's sit down and have a chat. There's some things that I just want to go over in terms of just, how we do stuff and how things operate. And there's a way we can talk to each other that doesn't, I don't have to sound condescending to you. And I also don't have to sound like an asshole. And that middle space is where, how many people struggle to operate in that middle space? A lot.
Like the
Yes.
learning pains of
Hmm.
becoming an audio director. I love the audio in that game. It's the lack of music in some points that stick with me in my memories of like crawling in certain spaces and honestly like dicking around with cameras. Really, like there
Hmm.
were lots of little noises of them moving or stopping or like having some kind of activity. That stuff really buried itself
I'd
conscious.
have to I'd have to give credit to Todd Simmons for a
Oh
lot of
really?
that. Yeah, Todd Simmons was our sound designer. I mean, he did some music, Antarctica music specifically, and maybe more than that. Definitely Antarctica was an area that had Todd Simmons music in it, and he introduced me to Venetian snares and Mogwai, and at least well, Postal Service,
Oh
and at least yeah, a bunch of bands. Venetian snares was too rich for my blood. Mogwai had moments that I was just like, and and I'd take it home and I'd play some of this for my now ex-wife, and she'd be like, it sounds like noise,
post rock.
and
Yeah.
and so I like now, I mean even back then I would Todd ran a show called a MODA, Austin Museum of Digital Art showcase, digital showcase, and digital showcase would have visual art, but they'd have an electronic band, and the more obscure and eclectic, the better. So I think Andrew Sega did some stuff with them for while he was still living there before he moved to New York. But anyway, yes, Todd Simmons did the camera. I'm almost positive he did camera stuff, and a lot of the immersive aspects of that because immersive simulation was
Yeah.
the foundation that we all worked in.
Right.
For
You essentially had created something almost too good to top, and like how do you do it, but in a way that you just slightly expand everything. But I really appreciated so much of what that game did. I know it's funny
awesome.
because it keeps coming up in a different cycle in conversations like, oh man, it's hella underrated. Oh man, no, it wasn't as good as you remember. Oh no, it is better than you remember by a lot. And so it's really cool to see it stay on people's minds no matter what really their like what their grade is. Um,
It's a
it was
divisive
certainly,
game. When
yeah.
I got to Midway, there was I wish I remember his name. I don't remember if he was a designer or QA, something. And he, man, had like half of his head shaved with long hair on the other side. I think black jeans, black shirt, and black combat boots. And he said, like, just to let you know about Invisible War, I'm not dissing the music. I'm not dissing the audio. I just think like it was shit compared to the first one. Like,
Oh, really? Just
like yeah,
flat
yeah.
out
He
shit.
was he was sorely disappointed in the experience. And I understand the people that were. I think he complained, like many people at the time, about unified ammo. People,
It's weird,
the
but it's
people that liked, well, that was part of going to console. That was part of Harvey's solution. Maybe it
mm.
wasn't just Harvey, maybe it was some other designers, but like Harvey was the most talkative of the design. I mean, he was the lead of the project creative. He was the lead designer. But he would also be the one that would talk the most. And he could be even-handed and try to be understanding with what people would talk about. But at the time, there wasn't a ton of collaboration. It was just like, this is the way I want it done. Get it done. Which sometimes, when you really inspire your people, and he did work to inspire people, he would give long speeches about, here's my reasoning, here's my rationale, here's what I think works. I have talked with so and so, and I think this, and I think that, and I think the other. So he would explain his motives and his motivations, and that helps. There was just maybe a little, at the time, a little bit less of the, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's incorporate that as well and iterate fast on it. Um, there was a little bit of my way or the highway, and I don't remember. I hadn't worked with him since, but like James Schmaltz, there we would have little disagreements about things, and years would, I wouldn't say time heals all wounds, but like, there was a time in which I wasn't Harvey's biggest fan. I don't think he was my biggest fan. But these days I felt pretty awful when his team got let go after they did. Oh, geez. I mean, so there's Dishonored, the Dishonored games, and then what was that vampire game? I feel awful.
Not the Masquerade one.
I don't think it was Masquerade.
No.
I'm gonna do a quick look up. Game.
Not was it recent, like the last couple of years?
It was Arcane. Redfall.
Okay.
Redfall. So Redfall comes out, rushed to the door. Aaron Brown was the audio lead on that, and Aaron Brown is one of the best of us. He's just super talented, super great community leader in Austin, and he got let go. So I felt bad when that studio closed. I felt bad for Harvey, Ricardo, Steve. Um, it was part of the great, hey, and comes and goes in cycles. Like Midway bought a bunch of studios and a bunch of studios closed. EA bought a bunch of studios, a bunch of studios closed. Activision buys a bunch of studios, a bunch of studios closed. Uh, Microsoft, the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just how things work. And I know Matt Booty. Matt Booty is also a really good guy. I'd say that he's a step up from some of the people that were running those other companies that I mentioned. Uh, and money is money, and you you can't, I don't defend like, oh, mass layoffs. It's part of the business and ripping families apart and doing all that sort of thing and promising people careers and then taking that away is just totally fine. It's not. It's terrible. We have to stop that practice. But the way that we stop it is by not promising people careers.
Yeah, it is still part of the kind of like machination of like the worst parts of capitalism, right?
Hmm.
Like, all these things are forced into accruing more value for less work, no matter how much you are actually putting into it. And it becomes a totally different thing. And the
Right.
fact that that is infecting games so terribly over the last 15, 20 years is heartbreaking. And like
Yeah.
to the point that, yeah, maybe it's all a conspiracy, but like
Yeah.
I really feel bad that like the most innovative, interactive, newest form of storytelling that humanity works with, that it tells itself that it like can still perpetuate myth with, which is something that like we just don't do really.
Hmm.
Like the fact that that is having so much to deal with, so many growing pains is difficult to watch. And again, it's a big motivator for why I continue to like push for game coverage. I know it's not fun to talk about or interesting to everyone, like, but it's so important to me. And like those stories,
Hmm.
in Deus Ex, the way that those stories were told are retold to this day for a reason, resonate strongly with what's happening around
Yeah.
us. I hate that, but it's true. Um,
There was no twin towers in the skyline of New York in Deus Ex. I know it's been said a million times now, but
This is true. And I mean,
not
again,
deliberately, but yeah.
I'm sure, yeah. But it is interesting to think about, like, again, because I think as people my age, a lot of millennial folks are thinking about times from the early 2000s, late 90s, and like considering both sides of where they were, like for like 9/11,
Hmm.
for instance, and like when things like the Spider-Man trailer were changed because there was like the big web between the twin towers. There
Right.
were a lot of like funny things that just mentioned the twin towers, and like I guess what I'm trying to say is like I guess no one could have planned how closely like the more dystopian aspects of our fiction were about to
Yeah.
like how real they would get. And so again, like as storytelling is like subject to all this money and like evil bullshit, I want to do my best to like make sure the music and the hard work that all these people put into, I don't know how to help other than just do stuff like this, you know.
Yeah, no, it's what it sounds oddly whatever it sounds like, maybe contrary. I was going to say you're doing the Lord's work in informing people about more music. And oh, let me just add a thank you. Let me add a thank you because you reached out, and there was a point at which I was just like, I like sound on sound. And I'd like to, talk to somebody at Rolling Stone or Pitchfork
Ah,
or Spin. And I did a few social or Twitter, just sort of like, hey, like mods are cool. Like it's a cool story. It's a, like going back and
I
looking
think
at
I saw
this
what you're talking
this
about.
scene. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And guess who actually reached out? Yeah, Fecking Bahamas did. Not
Oh,
not
me.
any of these big pitchfork people. Not to say that I don't read the occasional bit by Rolling Stone, or in fact, Rolling Stone's Top 100 is a thing to go back and refer to and just be like, hey, let's give this a whirl. It's like the American Film Institute's Top 100. Like what are
Sure.
some movies we should watch? Well, what sources should we use? If I want to go and check out some math rock, where am I gonna go? Right? So,
There's very little, there's only a few places you would want to go. I don't know why you would do that to yourself. But, as someone who there's not that video games has replaced math rock in my mind, but like math rock tells a kind of specific story in different ways over and over again. And like again, I've just been thinking about my own time in bands. What did that mean? Why do I still write music? Why do I still enjoy it? And it's just like this fluctuation in the movement of these emotions. It's like what you would want to do with your body. You want to try to keep in shape, and it's just
mhm.
like cycling these emotions is very important to me. That happens in storytelling. Music is the universal language for that. So
Hell yeah.
yeah, just trying to do that Lord's work. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. And might I throw it back and just say thank you for being so open with your fans. You have a great Discord and like a great selection of questions that you put on YouTube and expand in really fun ways. I have learned quite a bit the last few days and all of it enjoyable.
Awesome. Awesome. Try to make it semi-entertaining, but the idea
I
is
think
just
it is. I'm entertained thoroughly, but I do think there's a couple more like technical things here we can glom onto. That way, I know the
please.
nerds among the nerds will be satisfied.
Yes.
Um, I am curious about how your experience with art, or sorry, not art directing, with audio directing, how that might have influenced a starting audio department,
Hmm.
or maybe if it's more interesting to you, how did that shape Funky Rustic and like what that studio how did you set that up in alignment with those things?
Oh yeah. Um, Funky Rustic started because there were it became clear quickly how volatile the industry was. And it's something that's gaining traction now with outsourcing groups, that some of which are, making whatever, money hand over fist they're making now that internal people have been laid off. But the notion for Funky Rustic way back in the day was, well, 2010, was, hey, I got laid off after, close to the end of Ion Storm. Thankfully, didn't get laid off from Midway. I left Midway to go with Obsidian and start their audio department. And the reason that I left Obsidian was really only because a job opportunity opened up in Austin with Heatwave Interactive, which is my family at the time wanted to be in Austin. And so those were all choices, which what a luxury that seems now. um, so so Funky Rustic was when we moved, it was with a venture capital company. Heatwave was venture capital. And we intelligently were just like, this, it's not like we wanted it to fail, but we were like, we need a contingency.
Sure.
And Funky Rustic was that contingency. It was get connected with an acting agent or a voiceover agent, Deborah Duckett, which I did. reach out to a whole bunch of people that I know, which I did, and some work that was just enough for myself and sometimes a few other people would trickle in. And that was, I mean, there's always ups and downs. Definitely in a down right now, although there's quite a bit of work that I'm tackling right at this moment. The challenge is still the finance, but it's it has its ups and downs. But Funky Rustic was I still point to that as if one wants to be successful in this industry, you have to recognize that if somebody offers you a job, it's great. And in extremely rare cases, you can keep that job, you can maintain trust with your team, you can maintain good relations with your team, and the projects that you work on go out and they sell like hotcakes, and you get raises, and we all go to heaven in a little rowboat. Um, but most of the time, that's not the case. Most of the time, the company lasts only so long, or the department you're in has to downsize, or any number of reasons, and you're back out on the street, just looking for whatever you can. So keeping relationships now, thankfully, I mean, it increases the competition, but yes, social media makes it easier to reach out to people and find relationships, but it also makes it easier to spread yourself way too thin and not really be invested in whatever it is that you're trying to do. And some people might assume, hey, he's Alex Brandon, he's way too busy. I'm definitely busy. I'm not busy enough right now. um, and like there's people that I love contributing audio for right at this moment that can't say like, hey, here's a full-time position with X amount of money. So yeah, that's how the progression from full-time work to Funky Rustic as an outsourcing group, and it goes back and forth.
That's a really, I feel like that's such an important answer. I really appreciate that. There's a lot of like obviously there's personal context in that, but yeah, I think there's some lessons to be learned in that for sure. Some larger life lessons of like give and take and effort and whatnot. It's did you record not to just like I'm not jumping too far ahead of this one, but did you record your lines for Ancano there at your home
Oh,
at your studio there?
not in my not here. Definitely not here. I'm in Seattle now.
Oh, right.
When I was in Austin, um, recently I shared, and I'll send this to you after or whatever. I recorded Ankano and Ahmad Motier at the Blockhouse, and the Blockhouse is a
Okay.
studio run by Joel Block, who used to run the place called the Production Block, which was one of the main production studios for commercial recording, like recording advertisements.
So at the
Um,
highest fidelity.
I mean, he had a Neumann TLM 103 and some pretty good preamps and a really well-built room.
Lord.
So, I mean, it's honestly it's better than where I am now. I have some treatment on the walls. I don't have, excuse me, I don't have like double walls the way that he
Right.
did. So he had his whole space built out to sound really good. And so it was a great place to record. Yeah. And Joel Block is something of a studio legend in the Austin area. And like I said, I'll send you somebody did a great interview with him, which it's kind of like what you were saying about the magazine. It transported me back to that Skyrim session. And I was
That's
like,
cool.
oh man, that was 2010, 2011. Oh my gosh, it's like I'm there. It's fantastic. It's awesome. And there's aspects about Austin that are fantastic, just that in terms of just having a city personality. It's got a
Sure.
really strong one, in my opinion.
I've been to Austin a couple times, and played a couple of really interesting different kinds of gigs there. And I would say that it's not a place I expected to love, but by the end of the first night, I loved it. I was just like, this place is a little bit crazy,
Yeah.
not in a spooky way. It's just like there's never nothing happening. I guess I would say that.
And it depends on when you were there, like Fifth Street, Sixth Street, and Fourth Street used to be places that were safer to walk around
Yeah, I was
in.
gonna say one of those streets I did have to walk way around, but
Yeah, yeah, Red River and Seventh and
we parked our van over there, and I remember
okay.
just being like, I think that guy's dead. But
There's people that have dodged bullets. that said, yeah, we got shot at. Um, that is extremely sad. It was like when I moved to Austin in 2000, and you I mean, yeah, you it's not like you could just, be like, let's go into every dark alley, but like Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Streets, you could just walk up and down pretty much all night, not really worry about anything. You could park for free in this big parking garage that was sort of at the end of
Oh,
Fourth Street,
that
and
was
of course yes, that disappeared like within like I don't know 5 years. So I got to see the best part of Austin. You ask me, and then I'll say like, oh, it was great when I went there in 2000. Then you talk to people that were there in the 90s, and they'll be like, no, 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 it was best when I was there. Then that goes every decade before,
back.
maybe down to the 60s, maybe the 70s was when it started, but I think 70s, 80s, I hear from people that were like, oh, you weren't here then, and that was something else, and I'm like, oh, great.
It's kind of a city life. There's a variation of those legends, in the bigger cities. But yeah, I just remember liking Austin's like flavor. I was, the
Yeah.
closeness to the south of the border and all of that, like having all that culture kind of like mixed throughout Texas. I also really enjoy. I just enjoyed Texas way more than I thought I would. Anytime that I was playing a gig there, I was just like, these people are pretty sweet. The desert's pretty cool. Like the music and the food is
It's
all.
not all, what was it? Warren Spector told me when I went down there. He said, like, people picture saguaro cactuses with guys with bandoliers
Oh,
and big hats on
that's
sitting
where
on
I am.
hills. And oh, really?
Yes, I am in a place called St. George, Utah. Uh, very corner.
Whoa. I
Yeah.
took I took my boys to Bryce Canyon and uh oh geez, what's the other big canyon?
Is it
Um
Zion or
Zion, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I worked there for a while. My spouse and I both did.
Oh, that's so cool. I we
Very
we, we
lovely.
loved it.
Yeah, very. It's a cool town, but yeah, much closer to those bandolier dudes
Oh,
than
I had no idea.
oh
Okay.
yeah. But I mean, to try to stay on the path here,
Yes.
I'm wondering if because you have several roles. Speaking of like just voice stuff, you have several roles where it just says additional voices.
Hmm.
What's the weirdest thing that you got an additional voice credit for? I'm picturing like you maybe did like an animal sound or something like that was just not available and you
I think I've
improvised.
done some creatures, not along the lines that D. Bradley Baker has done. He used to do some performances at Video Games Live and make some weird creature sounds. But I was able to hack that. Um, oh, that's a good question. I can't come up with any off the top of, well, the one that's easy, that's not really that weird, is like the news announcer. Although I don't think that was an additional voice for Rampage Total Destruction,
Oh, that's so cool.
which I think may have been. I could be totally wrong. Somebody correct this or whatever. Write an angry comment. That I think that may have been the most modern Rampage
I think you're right.
game. And if it is, that's the closest thing to the the Dwayne Johnson movie, which is even more ironic because I got to help direct. I didn't do the full direction. That's Mary Elizabeth McGlynn was the voice director that was actually there. But I helped set up the session that we recorded Dwayne Johnson for Spy Hunter Nowhere to Run at Midway, and that's when I got to work with him. So then he does Rampage, and so when Rampage came out, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me! Like,
It's interesting how like the celebrity face has really been a presence the last 20 years or so in video games. I'm not
yeah.
saying good or bad, but it's notable and like wow, I recognize
Sometimes it works, and of course, Midway and other big publishers, people when people get money, well, heck, Stormgate, they're just, Samantha Inouye Hart introduced us to, um, oh my gosh, my brain with usually I'm better with names. Who is in Shang-Chi? Who is Shang-Chi? Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings by Simu Liu. So Simu Liu, she introduced us to Simu Liu, and he's a big Stormgate fan, and so like of course, the heads of Frost Giant were like, "We got to get him."
yeah.
Free publicity. It didn't really do much of anything to make the game popular, and that's always going to be the case. You could get the most you could get Ryan Gosling to be in a game version of Project Hail Mary. It doesn't mean the game's gonna sell. It really doesn't.
That's a
Uh,
really interesting point, honestly. Because I mean, and if you are not super well versed, I think you might think otherwise, right? Like, if you're just a casual dude flipping through the magazine, and are you know, I guess people don't do that.
well,
If
I mean, name recognition is name recognition, but I'm just speaking from experience. Like they got David Bowie to be in Omicron, the Nomad Soul. They got Michael Jackson to be in several different games. I mean, there was Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. I mean, celebrities have been involved forever, well, a long time, but it's never been able to really equate to sales. I mean,
that's true.
maybe there's a marketing person out there that's just like, you're totally wrong, and here's all my data. Well, show me the data. Show us the data.
I don't know if it's there because I mean, some of these people, thankfully, if there was a wave and if there was like a breaking point, it does seem like there are some people out there that are just doing it for the sake of the medium and entertaining themselves with the art.
Right.
Really inspired by like what Sam Lake and the people at Remedy are doing with like recognizable faces. We're not talking like AAA list celebrities breaking the budget, but I recognize. Oh my God, that's the guy from X Men. Hey, I recognize this person, like,
Well, and Death Stranding, right?
and that's,
Like, I
yeah, Death
mean,
Stranding is like one I almost hesitate to bring up because they are more recognizable, I'd
that is
say, like
true.
in the
That is
international
true.
sense, but still, I think a great case of like the art being the triumph there, as opposed to, just like I got that face in this game.
Yes. Who's the? I love that I'm not remembering any names. Whoever the leading man is in Death Stranding is not somebody that I would have imagined to be the first pick
Oh yeah,
for that role. I'm not saying he didn't do a really good job. I think he did a very good job. That's what makes it cool. That's what makes it different. That's kind of where you're just like, he kind of looks like a redneck, but he's wandering around and with this weird like sort of global thing going on and
it is not to be understood, not right
right,
away.
right, right. Yeah.
Uh,
And yeah, exactly. We
it's
could get
but
into Kojima conjecture all
we
day.
in a way we're getting close because we will talk more about AI in a sec.
All right.
And he
Sweet.
does have a lot to throw down, right? He threw down a lot about AI. I don't think anyone wanted to hear it, and it ended up being so right that it is
Oh yeah.
nightmarish to look back on now.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get back to, oh, you know what? As I'm scrolling through it, I'm like, what was next? And that is where it is. It's at the
Oh, we're
AI.
there. Cool. All right. Well,
Um,
let's dive into that.
so for someone who's listening to this and maybe is not sure how to parse through the kinds of AI a developer like yourself might mention, whether it's something that you're trying to use as a cautionary tale or to promote AI in a useful way and like development. Could you maybe differentiate between two different kinds of AI and how they would come up for you, like generative versus like predictive or something like that?
Well, yes, absolutely. I've got a working group called the AIWG, which is a part of the Interactive Audio Special Interest Group, IASIG, which itself is attached to the MIDI manufacturers or the MIDI Association, which is and also the International Game Developers Association. So lots of letters to remember there. But point being, I started a working group because the Interactive Audio Special Interest Group typically does technical working groups. One of the first things that it was trying to tackle was things like general MIDI. Another thing that it successfully tackled was 3D audio and games. That's a Brian Schmidt i3DL2 working group. Years ago, there were many different standards at how to propagate audio. Brian successfully managed to bring people together and not establish like the standard, but at least guidelines that people were able to follow. And that greatly helped funnel how 3D audio would be propagated. So when it came time to look at AI, we did, obviously we're not going to create an AI standard, but the idea was to sort of flip that and bring a bunch of people together and put the human side of talking about AI. And that means face-to-face conversations like we're having
Okay.
right now. The reason that I started because I was planning on doing a project for some music writing, and it ended up being a generative AI project across the board. And that company did not ship the project, and the company did close. But the inspiration and the impetus was the drive was created. So to differentiate, kind of, I I don't. This isn't that obvious. To some people, it may be. To some people, it may not be. Generative AI is the one that people see and talk about. They say this is AI slop. This is taking away human creativity. Yes, absolutely. Um, the kind of AI that I am more interested in is augmenting the things that we already do. And in games specifically, what interests me most is, and this is, this is we're just getting into this, is Godot, which is a game engine, is text based, and you can use a tool like Claude AI to essentially configure it however you want. Now, it's not like an instant gratification thing. It's like,
Okay.
any prompting requires some knowledge of code, requires the ability to check that code, requires the ability to manage systems, right? And that's games across the board. But you are not beholden to having to go back to square one and learn C++ plus plus, or spend a ton of time learning about blueprints
Sure.
and these preset systems. These are things that you can just go with. And that is what inspires me, to be honest with you, is looking at tools that we feel hindered by for our own iterative reasons and being able to take the shackles off. So,
Yeah, and it's like you said, like it sounds a little bit obvious, but also there are so many ways that someone maybe would hear that and be like, "Oh, so you want to automate this?" and just go completely in a different direction. So
yeah.
yeah, and I guess it's important. Well, obviously, I know it's important, but like you're saying, with this person to person emotional context is being provided, it is kind of what would maybe too difficult for a lot of people working with just general prompts. I don't know how to, it's we lose a lot with just text, right?
We do lose a lot. The language is only one part of it. We struggle ourselves to understand what each other is saying, and particularly with text versus just conversation and voice. So it is not. It is amazing. Like there's a whole segment of the tech sector that's like this is a silver bullet, and it's going to make everybody rich, and we're never going to have to work again. It's just like oh please. I was talking to a colleague at the Game Developers Conference about Sergio, the art director, the ex. I mean he runs his own outsourcing group now mainly for art, but his partner had been talking to or had breakfast or something with a CEO of some company that apparently had some money, or a good amount of it, and said the sort of rich CEO thing, which is nobody's going to be working in a month. And my response to that was like, sounds like he's got his head in the clouds. And the person I was talking to about this said, like, well, he's certainly got his head somewhere.
It's crazy how that keeps coming. I mean, I don't know who is going to learn the lesson and then pass it on to the other rich investors or like the sector
Right.
that is corrupting gaming in that lens. But I didn't
Yeah.
expect it to come up as much as it did in like the when I was reading Play Nice, it talks a lot about like how Blizzard's like their corporate structure changed as they got so popular they had to address more demands as live service became a thing and that it didn't get much into AI. I imagine I don't want to be predictive about what Jason Schreier's next book would be, but it would be pretty cool if it was about AI. I also think I'd love to read it if it was about Unreal versus Quake and Doom and stuff.
Oh,
But
hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I would shit.
Jason
Like
Schreier.
he's I know that a lot of people like it's hard to read about something you're so passionate about sometimes. I had to walk away from the book several times, like I didn't know that. But
I
yeah,
think
I
it's
don't
really well written, and at the same time, I'm glad he did something like that versus reading headlines that would say Jason Schreier predicts this about the game industry, and I'm just like, but has Jason Schreier been a game developer? And this was a while ago, right? So clearly, Schreier has done a great deal of learning and talking and researching.
Yeah,
But at first, when it seemed as though it's just like Jason Schreier knows everything about the game industry, I'm like, no, he doesn't.
yeah. There was some valid
Um,
criticism for that for sure.
but I want to check out that book. I've gotten to
It's
work
good.
with some Blizzard people.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, and I mean, so yeah, right. I think some of the folks at Stormgate,
Hmm.
where it's StarCraft, right?
StarCraft 2, Warcraft 3,
Good Lord.
made up, I think, at least half the team.
I'm curious, like, what kind of insight this brings to someone with all of your experience. Like, all of these work and all these positions can kind of go away really quickly. We find that more and more all the time, I guess, through
Yeah.
different avenues. Is it is it as scary as it seems with stuff like that happening?
Oh, well, there's a lot of emotions involved, to be sure. It's never an easy process. You join up with a bunch of people. Some people you get along with, some people a little less, some people maybe not at all. But it's still a group that you are in the trenches with. And not, I mean, I'm not even speaking specifically about Stormgate at this point. It's just, it's always scary to get news of uncertainty. It's even more scary to be surprised, which has also happened. There's people that just can't bear to tell people, "Oh, I don't, we have, X amount of money left." Is from what I understand. I don't know how specific I am. Or how accurate I am here, but I do believe that Greg and Ray, the founders of BioWare, were very transparent with their people about company finances, and why they would make financial decisions and budget decisions and uh, other things like that about the games that they would make. Now they haven't been at BioWare for some time now, but yeah, it's a difficult thing. I think that people are too scared to say, "Yeah, let's start a game team. We might fail." Because you don't want to set people up for failure. But that doesn't mean you don't mention it. That doesn't mean it's not a possible reality. It's not something you should gear up for. Um, so yeah, I mean, like the yeah, but as far as Frost Giant goes, I have said it a number of times. Tim Morton he was transparent about how the company was doing overall. Um, Other than that, it would be very difficult to get into details about let's plan for this budget here and that budget
Mhm.
there and figure this stuff out. Now, this guy, um, Howard Zing, that he hired to be the CFO of the company, was a great guy. Uh, he would say, well, he would be as transparent as I could imagine with money, but then he would have to say, well, now I have to go talk to Tim and get back to you on that. And so I was just like, okay, that's fine. But when Tim Campbell talked to me about budget on Wasteland 3, and we would talk about getting an extra sound designer and figuring out how much we could afford, he just put the numbers in front of me. He said, like, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's how much money we spent, here's what. I'm just like, geez, why can't it always be like this?
For three,
I don't go out to, was that?
for this what Frost Giant, this is for Wasteland 3.
Yeah. So I worked with, I'm backing up. I worked with
Okay.
Tim Campbell and I'd met Tim Campbell on Wasteland 3. Actually, before that, I'm sorry. I met him on System Shock 3. And then he came on to Wasteland 3 while I was on Wasteland 3. I was like, hey, what's going on? We had a great relationship working there. And then he went to Frost Giant as the creative director and said, come on board. And I was like, cool. Because In Exile had wanted me to work with them, but they wanted me and my family to move to Irvine. We were not able to do that at that point. Yeah.
That's a tough place to move. It's beautiful, but man, you got to be rich. You got to have a lot of money.
Exactly. And well, so I was going to say I like Austin. Austin has this personality, and I have these memories that it's weird because like there was a lot about Austin landscape wise that was just depressing to me. Like, I love trees. And so when I came out to Seattle, I'm in heaven now. Trees and mountains and water. It's absolutely wonderful. I'm sure a lot of people really like that. I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
anybody that doesn't really like trees, mountains, and water. I don't know. There's some people that like the desert. So I was going to say Austin is great, but But Seattle is just it scratches the itch nature wise, in a lot of different ways. How did I get onto that subject to begin with?
We're talking about how you met the folks that got you in Wasteland 3,
Oh,
right?
moving out to Irvine.
Yeah,
And it's
okay.
expensive. Right. The thing about Southern California, it is beautiful, but a lot of the beauty is not necessarily natural, right?
Sure.
A lot of palm trees. Weather's good. God, the weather's definitely better
Nice
than here.
malls,
Yeah. Yeah. And the malls are okay.
cool shopping center.
Haven't been to a mall in a while. Uh, there's a big one really close by. Yeah.
Oh, in Seattle, I
In
love
Seattle,
Seattle.
yeah.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in Seattle. I lived in Eugene for several years in
Oh,
Eugene,
okay.
Oregon. So I would go up there for like just random guitar center days and haul stupid gear back and forth. But yeah, nothing but nice things. Other than like, obviously it can be a difficult region to live in economically. I wish every day that every friend, even that's doing good, I wish they were doing better out there. Like it's just
In
a little bit.
Eugene?
Eugene or Oregon in general,
Yeah.
or just the whole thing. It's tough out there, but it's so
Oh,
pretty
man.
and
Yeah.
saturated with nature the way that Seattle is. It's kind of like
Right.
almost a constant ASMR thing in the background where you're just like, yeah, I can hear the trees and like the mist. This is tight.
Kind of. I mean, it's interesting how still it can be with no wind. Today was different. And of course, when leaves move, it can provide that. If you've seen, is it Michael with John Travolta? No, not
Oh my
Michael.
God.
Phenomenon. Phenomenon with John Travolta.
Yeah, but his name is Michael in that,
When
right?
I think so.
Yeah.
When he looks at the trees and he gets all relaxed, like I think
Mhm.
of that. And it relaxes me when I look at, what do you call it? Uh, Scientology and all, right? Battlefield Earth,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
all the crazy. Uh, but man, like I love that. I love that scene. So anyway, yes, Seattle, great place. This is, I'm knock on wood. This is where I stay until I die. That's what I would
Yeah,
really
it's
like to be
cool.
able to do.
I'm glad you feel that way. So hopping around here a little bit. I know we just kind of magically got about our love for the Pacific Northwest. I'm talking about sad things at studios and difficulties at studios and the
Right.
realities of modern development, if you want to call it that. But speaking of like just kind of looking back at things that were difficult or maybe that you would change now if you could, even in an ideal way. I've noticed you've taken part in a lot of remixes of your work.
Hmm.
I am curious, I guess, like what's the most difficult thing to remix of your own work? Are there not like emotional connections in a way?
Oh, absolutely. And I do the remixes partially because the original soundtracks can't be released because the IP owners just don't really care, or they.
They're
I
not for
tried to
sale,
get the
right?
Unreal Tournament, not well. Fingers crossed that's gonna slowly change.
That would be incredible. I'd buy it over
It
and
would
over
be. It would
again.
be. I don't want to speak, when there's potential contractual things taking place that I can't,
Sure.
Um, but and literally, there's some things that I'm not even sure about. But there's things that I am sure about, and that is like Materia Collective, who's my label, has been coming out with more and more original scores, and it's kind of, I'm hoping it's forming a critical mass to where companies are just like, okay, if it was 20 years ago, whatever, just put it out. It's fine. And I don't even I mean, I would really like to be able to get a cut because I would like to not, work until I'm 80 billion years old. Yeah, I mean, seriously, like I've been very lucky at being able to raise a family, support that family. Uh, I didn't plan that well for retirement, and so now I'm sort of just like, okay, if I can do a last big push for 15 years of just working my tail off, working my tail off. I've done a lot, and people could say, "Oh, you've worked really hard." It's like I haven't worked hard enough to really earn a proper break, so it's time to really, really go for it, right? That's kind of the plan at the moment. Anyway, As far as remixing my own work, it is there's an emotional connection. There's an emotional connection for the fans. And when we did Conspiravision, it was whatever take we wanted. Some people loved it. Some people hated it. Some people wanted essentially just revamped
Just the
versions of
same.
the OG thing. And so we did that for Tournament Rematch. And I haven't, there's only one comment I've heard, and that is like, well, I think I would have rather if you tracked it. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
Well, I mean, one of your goals that you have stated kind of in different contexts is to get so many of the resources available for people and audio positions in gaming, like to get that on par with stuff like film. So I understand why you would want to push for like higher or more expansive fidelity, right? Is that kind of related?
That's a big, big discussion there that I am happy to get into that. On the flip side of I'm not going to track a remix of Unreal Tournament. The reason is because when I was writing it, I was like, okay, let me record my at the time Gem 90 ham, which some of the first money I got from Epic, I poured into a commemorative uh, Ibanez Gem guitar that I wish I still had. I still have one. I have a green
Oh,
one that,
okay.
but I traded my 90 ham for a VBK and had that swirled to be like a GMC. Um, and boy, the ham is sort of like a Hoshino anniversary model. Sorry, I'm nerding out about this, but like
No, awesome.
it's got this sort of crater surface and it's like this green, silvery blue paint job, and I missed the hell out of that thing. I was a little less than fond with it at first, but it grew like steadily over the years. And now, they're like 5, 6, 7 grand on eBay and Reverb. Anyway, I would get this guitar, I would plug it into my Digitech 2120 purple face rack mount preamp and try to get eke some awful, terrible, I can't play guitar sounds and chugs out of it, right? And I would sample those and put those into Unreal Tournament. And what came out was this is minimally acceptable for what will get players fired up. And that was my feeling for the guitar related tracks. The electronic
Okay.
tracks, not quite as much, right? Like Go Down, I like it.
Yeah.
I think it holds up even in the original format.
It's been stuck in my head for 20 something years.
Sweet, sweet. That's really cool. Yeah, so but the as far as tracking goes, like it's a goal, and I'll say this on my Discord channel um to get into Furnace Tracker and fire up a PC88 chip and just go nuts like Yuzo Koshiro. That's a bit of a dream, just to have fun like that. Just be like, well, let's think of a day when I'm not doing laundry or dishes or some sort of chore, or being distracted by additional work for some contract or just other obligations, and just sitting up. Now I have people that support me. My girlfriend Ariel very much supports me in terms of like, you need to play more games. And I'm just like, you're right. I need to not doom scroll. I need to do far less looking at Top Gear on YouTube, and I need to just play some games and write some more of my own music, right? So, all of that said, I have a place of respect for every fan's preference for every chip ever made. There's the N64 stuff, there's the SNES stuff. When the SNES stuff came out, I was like, it sounds like all that matters is samples, and it just doesn't sound right. It's not as
Sure.
crisp and pure. It's rubbing me a little bit the wrong way. I mean, the tunes are kind of cool. Final Fantasy, I can jam to this, but like, there's something dirty and messy. But guess what? There's a lot dirty and messy about tracker music, a lot, and there's plenty in Unreal Tournament, plenty in Deus Ex. Um, so there's no like better this or better that. But there's one of the members of the Discord channel that is just solid into the tracking camp and just be like, I can't get behind studio tracks. The tracker stuff is where my heart is. And I'm like, stay there, you know? Like do that.
I experience a lot of parallels with that with so many different bands in math rocker, like especially as the term math rock gets massive and thrown around for different bands. But a band will come to be appreciated for a sound, even pioneering or perfecting a sound, and there's no room for movement all of a sudden in terms of like the fans giving them room to breathe for like trying something new, right? Like, do you feel that pressure?
Kind of. But I was gonna say, I want you to educate my ass a little bit on math rock. Is angine de poitrine math rock?
The answer I think is a firm yes. Uh,
Sweet.
they are a great example, I think, of some of the more accessible versions of prog. I mean, I shouldn't say accessible, but another
Mhm.
parallel people have been making is uh, King King
Crimson?
Lizard and the Gizzard Wizard.
Oh, geez, that's way different. Okay.
What was the one that you said?
King Crimson.
Oh, King. Well, I mean, King Crimson. If they're not unrelated stylistically, I would say like King Crimson set the tone for what these guys are doing on like Fast Forward or in different
Right,
ways, right?
right.
And King Crimson is like they come up in math rock all the time as like, why are you
Oh,
guys
okay.
pissing around with all this noodling open tuning stuff? Go back to the King Crimson. It happens a lot.
Oh, that's
Um,
great. That's
but
so great.
there's some heady debates that sometimes they moderate, but mostly just let explode for engagement.
Yeah.
Uh, Anyway, but yeah, they are math rock. They are kind of
Okay.
classic duo format that you might see in like Lightning Bolt or Hella or Giraffes.
I
Uh,
gotta check some of this
the
out.
all of those bands have looper pedals and a crazy drummer.
Okay.
Sometimes there's an aesthetic, but sometimes the point is that there's not one.
What about clowncore?
Clowncore is a decent example. Yeah, they. So I mean, honestly, they're like intersectional. They have like prog and like what sounds like a little bit of jungle and like liquid. They have electronic and then orchestral little moments, like
That's true. Yeah.
very all over the place. But I would report on them without any hesitation.
Okay. Okay.
They would
Awesome.
be covered by Fecking Bahamas, who is more at this point just if you are weird and not accepted by your neighbor, most likely will talk to you and check your shit
Oh
out.
man. God. Counterculture.
Yeah, we need
Uh
more of that, right?
we
And
kind of do. I
I
don't
think
I
so.
the
Yeah,
thing that I haven't that I wanted to, I mean, that I did not wax too poetic about it, but just like like I said, the photocopied pages of Aftershock combined with the fluorescent lights and the Wax Tracks posters has a feel that I miss.
yeah,
And like, maybe it's like a really sort of like maybe it's sort of a space, a performance space that is a little warehousey, but maybe not too open, right? There's a visual aesthetic, plus obviously the music has to be an important part of this. But I think, but I don't know. I want to listen to some math rock. Like Angine would clearly fit that for me.
yeah.
Um, but there's also a little bit of the I mean, and this gets a little into punk as well.
Good.
But like the idea is just like, we how do we rebel in a new way? What is it that is just not going along with and going along these days could very well mean social media and watching YouTube and all the things that I mentioned that I spend way too much time in, right? Um,
I do it too. And I mean, that's why it feels probably important to both of us to like, when we can, like, oh, dude, what I should create? I need to remember it feels good and cathartic to do so, right?
yes, absolutely,
Because I
absolutely.
forget, if I'm working on something and it sits for more than a little bit of time, I will forget the excitement. And it's 50-50 if it will be there when I come back. And then I'm not going to know what to do with it.
Well, and in addition to that, there's the whole notion of like, okay, when I create, do I need to really put? I mean, kids, look at these Angine guys. They clearly look as though like they're massively skilled. Well, I need to practice for 10 hours a day in order to get good. There's a guy, Dan Nicholson, who ran KMFDM, not KMFDM,
Oh, the other
KFMF,
one. Okay, yeah.
KFMF. Yeah, KFMF, Cosmic Free Music Foundation was the group that almost every demo scene, American demo scene tracker musician was in, myself included. And I did like a video that JMX did some cool visuals to, and he was a great coder. Um, but Dan Nicholson ran the group. Interesting thing. Dan's whole thing was, I'm just like, but I want my stuff to sound, crisper, better, tighter. And he's like, you know what? Some of the stuff that I considered my worst music, like there are some people that said it was their favorite track of mine. And I was like, that kind of is something that I've never forgotten. It helps with the whole notion of virtuosity. It helps with like, just like, are we making a statement? Are we expressing ourselves in a way that like, we're like, hey, we want to identify with each other, or we want to send a message that we think other people might hear and need to hear, or maybe we can assume that. But here's a funny thing. Dan Nicholson became somebody that collected and sold gun parts. Like, I think he's a family guy, but I think he might be ultra conservative. Um,
You can collect gun parts and maybe not be ultra conservative. It is a weird
yeah,
shape.
yeah, again, not wanting to labels works all over the place, right? Like,
Right.
so I don't just want to throw that word out, but some things that I would hear from friends and some stuff that would be posted ages ago when he was on social media. I don't think he is. Made me think like, what? This is a guy that's teaching me about art that also happens to have some alignments that I can't say that are, I was a kid. I was a card carrying member of the NRA. My dad gave me a card for the
Really?
NRA. We would get American Riflemen. We would go shoot at a shooting range. It was fun. That was when I was 7, 8 years old. And then before he died, he also said, like, yeah, I went off to Vietnam. I would not want to send my son off to war now. Like, yeah, so things change, right? And
Yeah,
and
they
so
do.
like and so I know I'm kind of going all over the place here, but it goes to what your first message spoke to me in terms of what your magazine does and the feel that I got from that and where it inspired me in terms of scenes that I hadn't really been present in um, for quite a while. And as you said, we need more of it, and I totally agree. I think
I think this is actually coming together so beautifully right now because you're talking a little bit of like the punk ethos, right? Like that's the underground of it, right? And
yes,
how do we get
underground,
back to that?
really good word. Yeah.
And obviously sometimes there's friction when something from the underground breaks above board, and all of a sudden, you maybe you see it on a commercial, and you're like, what is my homie doing on the commercial? Like there
Yeah.
there can be some weird scenes where all of a sudden a success might be had, or a perceived success, if you call it that.
Yes.
So this next question, it kind of addresses like the fluctuation, I guess, of that attitude.
Okay.
Um, but when you look back at like Unreal Tournament, Deus Ex, some of the Jazz Jackrabbit 2, the stuff that a lot of your fans kind of perpetuate as these industrial and dance and like vaguely club friendly sounds, right? Like they're all
Hmm.
intricate and emotional and have like this signature Alexander branded sound. But like for Unreal Tournament, there was this specific note from Cliffy B about propeller heads. We want
Yeah.
some stuff to sound more like this. And now, like that video I showed you on Instagram, there are people who are like, we're gonna play Unreal Tournament in slow-mo, but I'm gonna make my own jungle liquid IDM playlist.
Blows my
And
mind.
it's so interesting because I know that there were a lot of people hesitant to embrace the electronic scene, both in game development, but everywhere else too. It wasn't necessarily the most popular thing to break into. It was
Yeah, good
happening, but not
point.
everyone was ready for it. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that's
Yeah.
changed over time. If your view on like that, just dancey in the box music and production like that has changed.
Uh
You're like, no, I still hate that.
no, 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 no. I'd love to be able. Well, no, okay, so there was a game that wanted that style again, and what was it? Showgunners. Um I've got to still have it on my desktop because I'm just like I need to play this at some point. So Showgunners is an example of that. I did a guest track on there. Actually, no, 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 no. It wasn't. It wasn't clubby and it wasn't dancey. It was hardcore-ish with heavy guitar.
Okay.
But just but like, kind of electronic-ish affected guitar.
The DAW
Um,
guitar sound.
yeah, yeah, not Argent metal, I don't
Right.
think, but like, just more like Chugga Chugga. Um, yeah, so that's what they wanted for Showgunners. I would love to do just an entire jungle whatever. And as I think it was really Michiel that led that charge in Unreal
Right.
Tournament. Like I would, I did the propeller heads E thing, but I did if there's one thing that I didn't nail, in my opinion, for myself at that time, it was the percussion. I didn't get the
Oh,
drums
right.
that like, because I was getting Future Music Magazine at the time, and I would go through their CDs. I would listen to Prodigy and Future Sound of London, and you remember Wipeout, like Wipeout XL, Tim. Oh God, why
Right.
am I
Tim
forgetting
Wright.
everybody's name? Tim Wright. Thank you. Um, that was a great time. It felt really cool. Like the music worked, and because I was just like, wait a minute, like this is kind of electronica, and I would listen to Orb and Orbital as well,
Right. Hell
and
yeah.
they were like everybody was in that space. Like when you weren't doing something blatantly orchestral, it kind of was the default for so many games, and
Interesting.
um, I'd like to be back there. I'd love to be back there.
It
So
seems like it is coming back. Like that video came out a year ago, and there are dozens more like it. There's hundreds more that are
oh, good.
similar to it. So yeah, there's like a larger cultural appreciation, I think, that's just coming full circle for that era. And I genuinely hope that the all the interests continue to align and that your next big thing is just like this, the crazy next big thing for Alexander Brandon.
I have, well, I mean, I've got my own solo albums that I
You
have,
do
and I have
have very
I
cool
have
stuff.
them I have them lined up, right? Omega Force was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or whatever it was. The next one is going to be synth based.
Oh, interesting.
Um, and the idea is, and it's sort of like Omega Force was like, it was all over the map guitar
It's more
wise.
prog, right?
There was some prog, there was some like, four on the not four on the floor, but like, just
It's like
uh
Satriani prog. It like to me is like
right. There's some
five stuff.
Satriani in there, and then there's almost yacht rock for one of the tune
Yeah, I think
Hunter
I know what you're talking
is
about.
is is a little bit into the yacht rock area of the 80s, right? But no, no, like, but it's because I handpicked, like, okay, I'm inspired by Metallica. I want to do, that'll be the track two. I'm inspired by Steve Vai, it'll be this. I'm inspired by Dream Theater, it'll be this. I'm inspired by Plini. If you
Hell
pronounce that,
yeah.
if I'm proud and I'll do this. Or, I haven't gotten into Animals as Leaders, but maybe that'll be another guitar album that'll happen. Um,
That will be a fun one.
it'll be yeah, it'd be tons of fun. And I want to be able to reach out to these people that, whether they have the time or the inclination or whether the money's available. But people like Materia are like, hey, contact people that you want to work with. So if I was to do a full-on Jazz Jackrabbit remix, I'd want to get in touch with Cody Wong or,
Corey.
or Corey. My
I
name
feel
my
like
name brain is gone, or Snarky Puppy or Moonchild or any of those people to collaborate with, and I think at least one would probably jump on board. But like for the electronic stuff, it's picking and choosing, and house and jungle and drum and bass is all in that, is part of that inspiration. So there's going to be at least a couple tracks that follow that, but there's going to be crafted uh, percussion and drums on that. Maybe some
uh
live.
oh cool.
So yeah.
It's we've got roughly 5 minutes left.
Yes.
I wanna
6 minutes and 35 seconds. Let's do
yeah.
this.
Quick compliment. I think that the drum sounds used on in Deus Ex and Unreal, as like cold and as like kind of iconically isolated as they can kind of sound. I think that's a big part of why they have stayed in the weird industrial dance beat conversation because a lot of people are very picky about BPM and like texture and like which Roland TDR
Right.
model was used and stuff. So I do think that whether I like all the remix stuff and how like the drums sound much bigger, and I think that Wasteland 3 had like really great audio. Um,
Yeah.
that sounded like expansive every time that I was watching people play it. I was like, it just sounds big. Um,
Hmm.
so just want to say all that stuff's awesome. You're doing so good. I know things are
Thank you.
tough. But you resonated with a lot of people recently when you were talking about employment and how difficult it is to find something steady. I'm wondering if you have advice for people who are maybe able to complete a project as a composer, who are professionals like developing right now, but don't necessarily have a clear path in front of them. Like, should they generate some stuff and put it on Bandcamp? Should what kind of opportunities can they take advantage of in 5 minutes?
The eternal question. I'm thinking. Here's the irony. AI is helping me think. Again, when I say unshackled, when it comes to game engines, there's other areas that I'm talking to people about where they're just like, you know how, contracts and the way things have just always been done has been a black box of like record industry this and all that other stuff. I'm like, what if it wasn't? Um, what I think we need is like we need not to be as beholden to okay, if I want to be popular, it has to go through a really populated social media or magazine, or it has to. I think it needs marketing. And what John Henderson, who's a community organizer or a big community influence in Austin for the game dev scene, there's a lot of people that are making their own games, but he's just like find somebody to help you sell it. Like, don't try to do both. It will drain you, and I completely agree with that. Partner if you when you're doing your music, like partner with the people that creatively get you excited. Find somebody that believes in what you're doing that can help you push it. Um, Contact Fecking Bahamas. Uh, like what I mean, that's just one example, right? Like because I confess I hadn't heard of your magazine before you reached out. And that's not good, It's just like like that's on me that like if I'm talking about Spin and Pitchfork and all these other magazines, like it's on me to be able to say like, well, there's other people doing this. Why am I not reaching out to them? And how do I find them, right? So how do we find this sort of thing? So it's be creatively satisfied, but absolutely take pushing your stuff just as seriously as the craft itself. And you'll be minimally successful. You'll make some money.
That's
And yeah.
as much as we can hope for sometimes.
Exactly, exactly. So many people are making music these days, but like, everybody's music is unique to themselves, and there's so many people out there that can listen to it so easily. Yes, Bandcamp is the distribution of choice. I don't use Spotify. I mean, I do. Like Materia uses Spotify. I
Sure,
don't specifically upload to Spotify for a variety of reasons. And I
understandable.
know that it's all over the place, but yeah, I prefer Bandcamp.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing similar really to Bandcamp. I know that
Not as far as I know.
yeah. I mean, I know there are more coming up, and I'm excited to see what they do. So I'm hoping that's an optimistic note to end on.
Fingers crossed.
Hoping we can get some more artist friendly marketplace kind of thing going because I want to search for and support and like learn more about artists and Bandcamp for math rock is huge for that.
Sweet.
With soundtracks, it's way more difficult. There are so
Yeah.
many more tags or ways you could find it on such a platform. So
Oh, okay.
um, sometimes it's just AI, 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 AI.
Yep.
But they are hopefully working on that. So, I'm not saying that it's a sin to make or propagate that, but it gets in my way when I'm
Yeah.
looking for real people to help support.
I hear you.
Um,
Oh, God.
but anyway, Alexander Bennett, you are a legend for being here with us today and for all the great work you've done at this point and that I know you'll continue to do. Thank you again so much just for being so humble and real with your fans and myself included. It's been a pleasure. I'm excited to send you some more math rock.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks so much for having me.